Okay, so round three, let's look at the current round points for year three. And we see that it's getting a little bit tougher as you're improving your ability to compete. It's getting tougher to beat yourself round after round, but many companies have done so. And remember that you're shooting for around 400 is good to get per round to get to that magical 2,500 points, which is an A in this project. And if we look at total points, we see that a number of teams, if you're above, this is the third round, so if you're above 1,200, which all but two companies are, you're doing well. You're on target to get an A in this project. So you remember 1,200, it's round three, and we have 3 rounds left. So you want to get, if you're around 1,223, you want to get another 1,228 points or so to get to that 2,500. So most teams are more than halfway there. Some teams are, after 3 rounds, very close, at 19 and 1,800. Okay. So again, if we look at what's really important is the profit margins. So some companies are in the upper 50s now, and some companies are still, one company is still below 40, which I find astonishing. I guess they're not watching my videos. You need to get that above 40 because 40 is where you started at 3 years ago, and now you're at 39. So that would be a disappointment to investors. Everybody here who is in the 40s, you need to move that up into the 50s. And people in the 50s are going to start striving to reach 60 percentile, which I've seen done many times in this simulation. So remember, companies focus on profits. Companies focus on sales. Profits are more important than sales. I mean, if I was going to offer you 2 companies, which company would you rather be given for free? This company has $1 billion in revenues, and this company has $100 million in revenues. So most people would say, well, I'll take the $1 billion in revenue company for free. And then I reveal the $1 billion in revenue company has a $500 million loss per year, while the $100 million company has a $40 million profit per year. Now, which company would you rather have? So, the strategy of this project is interconnecting the departments, sales, marketing, operations, and finance together to make a winning strategy to do well in the simulation. Okay, so if we look at some of the charts here, we can see that profits are rising, which is good. For most companies, they're increasing the profits, and that's very good. Points are kind of stabilized here, maybe down a little bit. Typically, the year 2 and year 3 are difficult, but if you make the right moves, year 4, 5, and 6 are a little bit easier to make points in. And you see in this chart is stock price. Again, we still have the same stock price leader, and we have some change over here in the middle, and we have 2 laggers down here in stock price. As well as sales, I don't see any team whose sales were very flat, but sales, this is a very dynamic and fast-moving market, so your sales should be higher every round because if you look in the student user guide, they have a lot of information about forecasting and sales for each of the rounds. Okay, so if I was playing, with you guys for round 3, let's see. This is year 3, so you finish year 3, but I'll show you what I would have done in year 3. I would have looked over first I would have started by looking over my overview points and see, okay, where could I do a better job? Maybe my forecasting was a little weak here. My profit margins did go up nicely, very nicely. My profit margins increased, and my market capitalization. So 581 points, I'm very pleased with that. The next step, I'd go over to assessments and see, if I had a poor score, I'd look at some of the hints on how to do better. I'd study my charts. Specifically, like I say, every video, I would want to look at my market versus actual chart. And again, I'm falling way behind on I only made 3,000 sedans. I could have sold almost 3,300. So I need to keep that in mind when I'm forecasting next round. Okay, industry, I'd go in here and see what my competitors are doing, how they fared, how much they're spending in advertising, how many points they're making, how their financial ratios are doing, how they built their cars, and I'd seek out some of the better players and get an idea. Financials, I've actually had students take the financials, cut and paste them into Excel, and then type in their pro forma financials, get a better idea what their next round's points would be if they sell all the cars they're expected to sell. And here we are back in the sales, and I see that the customer expectations have increased. The top end of the sales price for the car has increased, and now I have to design a vehicle that will please my customers and also garnish me some additional profit margins. And I see here that my my operational cost reductions are at 3,000 because I invested heavily in my operational investments. Okay, so now I can see that my profit margin isn't as much as I'd like it to be. So I'll have to perhaps decrease a bit here. Okay, 54%. Okay, 57. All right. Okay, so if I look at my sedan, I build my sedan, and again, I'm just jumping the numbers in here pretty quickly. Okay, so I am at 56. That's not so good. It's not much I can do here. It's getting hard to beat my previous profit margin. Because the customer's expectations have increased, I'm having a hard time really expanding. So this might be a round where I'm going to have to invest heavily and not really expect the greatest results on some of my economy and luxury cars because of the the high cost of building the cars now to remain competitive. It's hard to get margins much higher than the 57 where I left off. So I know by this, I don't want to decrease my customer expectations so much that my cars are a piece of junk, but I also have to think of my shareholders and getting them the best, profits possible. So here I see I don't care much about price, so I might as well make the highest price. And then, okay. All right, so it's going to have to be the luxury that pulls me out of the basement here on my profits and gets me some additional profit margins for the round. Okay, so I'm going to submit my sales. And again, do my marketing. Marketing takes a while, so I'm just going to pause it here while I do the marketing. Okay, so we're back into production here, and I see that I'm actually good on production plants. Now this is since I don't have to buy any, I do have to buy here? I'm good in the other position. Since I don't have to buy any new, just one new production plant, I am going to really be able to improve my total asset turnover since I invested heavily in my production plants that I needed last round. And this should help with some of my per asset ratios. Okay, now I'm going to have to make my operational investments. Because I want to be able to try to remain profitable through investing in my operations, just like real companies do. Okay, so let's see. I have a nice surplus at the bottom, so I do have a chance to use that to pay back some of my debt, and that will help my debt ratios. Okay, so let's see, I still have 24. Maybe I'll jack this up to 10. Okay, so now I have 14, 19, still pretty good. And you'll notice that as you retire funds, your interest rates go down. And as you take additional funds, your interest rates come up as the riskiness of your company changes. Okay, so this would be my round 3 results, my entries for round 3. So let me submit that. And now I've caught up with the class, my demo, and the team competition are both in round 4. So my results for year 3, I see that I earned 469 points, which is very good. I was able to increase my profit margins just a little bit. That was enough to give me a significant amount of traction in my per share variables. My quick and debt ratio improved because I paid off some debt. I better manage my assets. My total asset turnover still a little low. Still not fully utilizing my assets. And I had some unsold truck inventory. Okay, so that would be something I need to work on that for next round. Okay, so we're all in year 4 now. So I just gave you an idea of how I would have completed year 3. Now you must go and complete year 4. Remember that year 4, 5, and 6, it becomes even more competitive as people are figuring this simulation out. There are some students who are running constant practice rounds, continuing, resetting, and running their practice rounds to test out ideas and become more competitive. So if you're not putting a lot of time into the simulation, you're going to fall behind because other students are spending a lot of time on it. And this is really the essence of this course, strategy. Strategizing your simulated company against the other companies in the industry. How to outthink, outsmart, and outprofit them. So good luck with that. Have fun with this. And I'll see you again for next round. Okay, take care.